It was one of the most unreturned and stolen films of blockbuster history. The company Blockbuster Video. So I once had an executive say, your film is the most non-returned and stolen films in our franchise. I was like, thank you. Would you like to buy 24 more cases?
Yeah. Let's bring out the founding cast members of the View Askew universe. Our first guest was known as the unnamed field representative of Chewlies Gum Corporation. Please welcome actor and musician Scott Schiaffo.
Hey, what's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing, boss?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
I was glad to have you here. Everything well in your corner of the world?
It is. We're hanging in there with this madness that is 2020, right?
Yeah. That, but yeah, well, hanging in right now is the good awesome. So more power to you and all the rest of us for doing so. Glad to have you here. Our next guest, she played the queen that gives lasagna as Veronica Longren. Please welcome actress and producer Marilyn Ghigliotti.
Hello.
Hi. So glad to have you here.
I was just posting, going live.
Awesome. Marilyn, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in Central Florida, and it's a balmy 80 degrees, and we're surviving. Last night for Halloween, it got down to 78, which for autumn, that's about as autumn as Florida gets until it gets winter. But anyway, so how are you doing in your part of the world?
Pretty good. I'm excited to be here, being with the guys. Even though we couldn't be in Raleigh live, this is the next best thing, so I'm excited to do this.
Absolutely. So glad to have you here. I'm so glad to finally be able to get the opportunity to host you at last. And finally, the man who wasn't supposed to be there that day at Quick Stop is Dante Hicks. Please welcome actor and occasional GalaxyCon celebrity and MC, our friend Brian O'Halloran.
What's up?
Hey!
Patty, good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
Obviously, COVID is treating you well. You look exactly the same, like you've been freeze dried, sir. Even your hair exactly the same when I last saw you.
Well, thank you, young man. As always, you for the COVID environment, you're looking well. And your little, is that a man cave or just a man corner?
It's a whole man floor of the lower level, but this is the corner of all my tchotchkes and collections from around my travels. It's the most interesting thing for people to watch when I do my streamcast. So there we have it.
Absolutely. We'll definitely get into that and get some more at the end. But how have you been holding up, bro?
Good. I live in about 2 hours northwest of New York City in a lower populated area of Northeast Pennsylvania. So craziness never reached to a boil up here. We had plenty of toilet paper, plenty of meat, plenty of water in the very beginning. And so I've been holding out. Lockdown got me caught up on a lot of nerd history that I've been putting off. Like I streamed the entire Game of Thrones series finally and caught up on all that, caught up on a lot of movies.
Wow.
Finally started my own podcast and streamcast that I've been talking about for many years.
About damn time.
Got on as one of my Marilyn was my very first guest. Scott was my guest just last week for the 10th episode. So
nice.
It's made me finally buckle down and get to work on things I should have been doing.
A lot of us have picked up those projects. So someday I need it. If only there was a national pandemic crisis that I could find the time to
exactly.
work on the shit.
You're always feeling you're going to miss something if you start it and but there's something going on. Now there's nothing going on that you got to go to. So now everything's virtually. So now, I picked up and logged into Twitch. So now I'm Twitch streaming and, streaming on Facebook, streaming on YouTube, and it's turning into the Jetsons, and then eventually it'll be the Matrix, and we'll all just be jacked into the system.
Until that day comes, but we are in this virtual environment, and let me just say, welcome to the GalaxyCon virtual stage. As always, we certainly miss we miss the days when we hosted you on our stages. We're looking forward to the day when the world gets back to normal and we can get back to putting you on our stages and back in front of your fans. But in the meantime, we had this electronic forum, and it is so glad to have you all here.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much.
A big shout out to Mike Broder and Sandy for doing
Absolutely.
this. The whole team of you guys putting this together, all in different parts of both Florida, New York, and California, and dealing with a lot of technically, shall we say, deficient certain celebrities. I'm just saying, not in these squares, but
Thank God.
I'm sure it's probably difficult bringing some. What do I gotta do? Hello?
I'm not saying anything except that our team is in the chat room right now and they are pulling out the questions for you. In the meantime, I would just I know you've been asked this question before, but there are probably some people that still haven't heard it. I would just love to hear how Clerks began for each of you.
Okay. am I to your So for me, I was doing the community theater circuit, and I was in the middle of a show in Red Bank, as a matter of fact, when I found out about the auditions for a film a kid is making. That's how it was actually put to me. So I showed up at the auditions. I had a monologue, and pretty much did the monologue. I felt a little self-conscious because at the time that I went there, I just remember a lot of people just being there, just watching. They weren't auditioning; they were just watching. So it was a little intimidating in that respect. But it's amazing how much Brian remembers, the details of that, because I don't remember a lot of the details of it. I just remember going in, auditioning, and leaving, and then getting a call from Kevin to go to the convenience store so we can talk. He can give me the script. I can take it home with me, see if I felt comfortable with what the role entailed, which, I was like, why wouldn't I be comfortable? But then I realized why. But that was by far nothing compared to some other films and stuff like that. So, I took it. I was reading it at work. I was laughing. I was like, of course, yes, I definitely want to do this. So, yeah.
Apparently, you impressed his good friend Walt Flanagan
Right.
by crying during your monologue. And she's like, "Yo,
And
look,
it's like,
crying."
I mean, yeah, I was kind of crying. I mean, one thing that I mentioned is that I know it worked, and it's like, and this is the actor and all of us where we criticize our work because that wasn't my best performance, but it wasn't my worst either. So, it's like you always critique your work.
Well, you can have the fans critique it themselves if they have the Clerks X, the 10-year anniversary edition of the DVD. One of the extras on the DVD is our auditions.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Very nice. So, all right, Scott, how about you?
I was very fortunate to see an ad in my local classified because I was nowhere near that area of Jersey. I'm up north. Like I said, I'm about 10, 15 minutes outside of New York City. Nowhere, Red Bank's about an hour and a half away. Back then, no internet, no smartphones.
Yeah.
You found your auditions in trade papers like Backstage
and Blue Sheets.
Right, and your local classifieds. And luckily enough, I saw it's on my Facebook. I still have it posted. It was indie filmmaker examines the day in a convenience store clerk or something to that effect. And auditions would be down in Leonardo, the Red Bank area. So I was like, now you throw a rock and you hit somebody making a movie. But back then, there weren't many people making movies in New Jersey. So I said, I have got to get to this audition. And I did. And I did a prepared monologue. And like Marilyn shared, I think a lot of actors, when you think you killed it at the audition, I don't get a call back. When I think my audition was weak, I get a call back. So I didn't feel that great about it, but luckily I got that call back to come down to read from the script. and the rest they say is history. It was greatest, the best classified ad I had ever come across. I was so thankful.
And I absolutely feel you, bro, about that. Like, oh, I nailed it. I totally got that. I totally did nothing. And then just like, what is the crappy thing? So we loved you. Contract tomorrow. What? Yeah. Yeah. We've all been there. So absolutely. All right, Brian, bring us home on this.
Sure. So I was contacted by the theater owner who owned the First Avenue Playhouse, which is still in operation to this day in Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. He had reached out to me. I had done theater. I'd been doing community theater about 3 years at that point. And he reached out to me saying, hey, these guys are renting my theater to hold auditions for a film. You fit the age range of the characters they're looking for. You should come and audition. Now, this was a month early before the actual auditions. Month goes by. They were auditioning on a Sunday night and a Monday. I just totally forgot it. I was doing a show in another theater at that time. Monday morning, I get a call, and it's Joe saying, Brian, where were you last night? I thought you were going to come down to audition for this. I think you'd be perfect for it. And I was like, oh my God, I totally forgot. What do they need? They're like, oh, just bring a monologue, a headshot, and come on down. I was like, all right. So I went down there. I auditioned. I asked the guy who was videotaping the auditions at the time, a gentleman by the name of Vincent Pereira, hey, how many principals are there? He goes, oh, there's 6, but we already have them cast. I'm like, oh, yeah, we're just auditioning day players today. I'm like, oh, okay. Kevin had us fill out this, which was weird. It wasn't just like an audition sheet with just basic information about yourself. It was like a survey. It was like a questionnaire. What was the last film you saw? Who's your favorite director? What do you think about independent films? Things like that. So at the time, Malcolm X was a huge, big indie film that was out at that point. So I wrote down Spike Lee, Malcolm X is a really great film, blah, blah, blah. And then I went up and I did my audition. And then a couple of days later, he had me come to a callback at the Leonardo Recreational Center where I read opposite Kevin. We read the independent contractor scene from Star Wars. And then he says, what do you think? I'm like, oh, this is hilarious. I said, the other guy's really funny, but this is good. He goes, do you want to do it? I'm like, sure. Now, I'm still thinking that these 2 convenience store clerks are just, day players in a bigger film that something happens where main characters come into the store and they overhear the conversation. So I was like, who are they in the film? And he's like, no, the film is called Clerks. It's about 2 store clerks. One's a video store, one's a convenience store clerks. And I'd like you to play one of the clerks. I was like, oh, but I heard that one of the, all 6 principals were cast when I went to audition. He goes, don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. And then the rest is history. And I came back again to read a chemistry read, as they would say, with Marilyn Ghigliotti, who I didn't know was auditioning.
Yeah, I had already gotten the part, so it was great to see that Brian was on, possibly getting the role for this, and so it was exciting to actually get to work with him again. Because we.
Brian, out of curiosity, what was the show you were doing at the time?
Wait Until Dark. I think it was Wait Until Dark, a few weeks after I'd finished the show with Marilyn Ghigliotti, Wait Until Dark. So it was kind of cool that once I had wrapped that show and then walked into this to see her, I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And we both said to Kevin, we just finished the show together a couple of weeks back. So
excellent. So it's fairly common, like the journey and the shape, and I'm sure you've all been asked this because everybody's asked this for anything successful. It's like, did you know it was going to be a success when you were making it? I always transpose that question into, when did you begin to realize that the movie had gone from finding its audience to creating its fandom?
I think for me, the start was definitely at Sundance when Miramax bought it. And then everything that we kind of had to do to get it all ready for the premiere release, it was just like exciting little steps towards that. I mean, we didn't have the big Hollywood premiere, but it was still exciting nonetheless. And then having to getting to go to Planet Hollywood at the time as well, to do our little own little premiere over there. And then just when we did have a theatrical premiere in Hazlitt, I forget the name of the movie theater, but the fact that there were so many people there for to meet us and to get our autographs on the posters that were there, I think that was, at least the start of it for me.
Yeah, very fair.
Scott, you're muted.
Scott, you're muted.
Sorry. I keep thinking I'll do that so there's not feedback because I'm a diva who doesn't wear earbuds. Well, certainly Sundance was an amazing thing. And then what happened after that was all the press it was getting. All of my friends would constantly be calling, hey, you got to pick up this magazine, that magazine. Hey, such and such did a feature on like within a week or two, I wasn't even able to keep up with that. To save press clippings. But certainly that was amazing and exciting at the time of the release of the film. But the overall life, none of us knew what was coming because of this amazing thing called the internet and the life that his career would grow exponentially as a result of the message board and things of that nature. Nobody saw that coming. And I think Kevin was one of the first filmmakers to really harness the power of that and to have his base, his people have a place to meet and grow. So that's a big part of the story in the long run, certainly not in 94 itself, but, over the history, that's a big piece of it. But 2.5 decades later, it's still a total mind blower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sundance, as what Marilyn said, when people from like Kennedy from MTV wants to interview you guys about this movie, and CNN wants to talk to you about this, and Leonard Maltin wants to talk to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like, oh my God, what's going on? To find out that the 4 screenings over the 10 days of Sundance, the film had sold out all their tickets before the festival even started, which is a rare event. It rarely happens to films. Was kind of a sign of what was going on. But also later that year, once the film was ready to be distributed, 94 was also the anniversary year of Woodstock. So it was a Woodstock 94 they were pulling off again in upstate New York. And when bands were done at 1 a.m., 12 o'clock, whatever it was, they would show movies over a time period till the band started again the next morning. And Clerks was one of the films that was shown. So it was this kind of, we knew our base that we wanted to play to, and people who were going to Woodstock in 94 who are probably, somehow altered in an altered state of mind at 1 a.m. watching all of the was definitely. And then when it hit the VHS rental market, kids ask your grandparents what I'm talking about. It was one of the most unreturned and stolen films of blockbuster history. The company Blockbuster Video. So I once had an executive say, your film is the most non-returned and stolen films in our franchise. I was like, thank you. Would you like to buy 24 more cases?
Yeah. That is absolutely right in the sense that the buzz on this was word of mouth when it was literally word of mouth. Like I said, there was kind of an internet, and Kevin certainly like jumped into it, like Scott had said, but this was the underground kind of magazines. It had a feel, and it was something that our generation, it was like guys our age made a movie, and it's exactly the kind of movie we would make if we could or if we would. And it's a generational benchmark.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin brought in talking about Star Wars and just the feelings and just concentrated on dialogue. There was no massive explosions. This wasn't a Michael Bay picture. There wasn't aggressive nudity or sexuality going on in the film. It was just issues that regular folks, especially people who would be, Comic-Con fans, would relate to, discussing different issues that may not be earth-shattering, but in their daily life, it was important to them. finding out that someone that you went to high school with, or even, had relations with, had passed away all of a sudden, and figuring, finding your own mortality, and where do you go with that?
Yeah, it's and again, it's again those conversations and everything else. People would say, well, conversations like that don't propel the plot. I'm like, that is the plot. that is what it is. It's the same thing. And I've had this conversation with highbrow people, and I'm like, did you enjoy my dinner with Andre? Yeah. Clerks is the same thing.
Right.
Clerks is the same thing. It's just got more dirty words, and maybe you don't like that. So what's out of all this, either during the films or just in the years afterwards with the fans and the fandom and everything else, what's become a favorite memory of yours to come out of all this?
Gosh, it's getting to work. Brian, at least he was a friend at that time. So getting to work with people that you enjoyed working with, and then all of a sudden, it's just grown into a really nice friendship over the years. Along with Scott, whom I didn't know. We didn't even get to work together. And then Ernie as well. And so it's my second family. I call them my second family.
You did get to hit him with a fire extinguisher and flick his card at him.
Well, you do kick me out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I did not get to fire that fire extinguisher. Yeah.
Okay. I was about to say you stopped his nefarious attempt at creating a cigarette riot.
Right.
You weren't on set for the lion's share of the Gum Guy riot.
Yeah.
We did get to spend some time on the set because
I was mostly on set though. It's like it was so quick that I feel like I didn't really get to interact and really talk to you and all that and know you.
Well, you were all under the gun because correct me if I'm wrong, that was a real working functioning thing during the day, so you were all filming at night when it was closed, and said time is money, especially on an independent feature that you maxed out with 10 of your credit cards.
Brian, thanks for bringing up the Woodstock thing, because actually for me that was one of the most amazing accolades, because I'm a musician and I've been a musician since I'm a young child. Music is my first love and passion. Acting is a close second. And Kevin has talked to me. I was on the phone with him, and he said, well, you made it to Woodstock, man. I said, what do you mean? He said, we screening it over, there you were screaming over a sea of Woodstock babies. And I actually used that line in one of the poems from my book. But that was mind-blowing to me, that I was part of Woodstock, albeit not as a musician, but to know that we were part of that festival, and sadly the last festival that went well and didn't end in violence. But that's probably one of the most, that, and it opened the door for me to have a career as a character actor from on. So of course it's but that's a wonderful memory of the Woodstock thing.
I would concur, absolutely. So Brian, how about you?
What's that?
Yeah, what's become a favorite memory to come out of all of this? I know you got a lot.
Times of Clerks. Yeah, there is a lot actually. But it's just knowing that it made such a impact of that time. The fact that originally the movie was rated from the MPAA NC-17. NC-17 is like light porn, let's be honest. And we kind of talked maybe in certain ways, but there was no nudity, there was no graphic violence, there's nothing of that nature. And then we have famed O.J. Simpson lawyer Alan Dershowitz being taken, hired by the Miramax company to appeal the rating to the MPAA, and thus we got the R. And now today, when you look at the movies, like The Hangover and some of these other movies where you're like, see, this is the door that it kind of opened, that you could kind of keep slowly pushing that envelope. And for a little Jersey film that was made for 28.9 and change, and to just talk about issues that reflected what Kevin was looking to do, about what he didn't see up on screens, that he wanted to tell his stories, and that we've been able to continue to tell these stories, and that here we are in 2020, locked in our basements, still talking to people about these films and this kind of feeling. It's a really amazing achievement in the long run. I'm very proud of that legacy, and I'm sure when I leave this mortal coil, I'll be able to have on my tombstone, and I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I kind of have my second little link as far as OJ, because years ago, I don't know how many years it was, I had to do jury duty. And you know how you go in just prior, so you get questioned by the judge, Judge Ito.
Oh, look at you.
Wow.
There was like 2 links there.
For a second, I thought you were going to say you were one of the dancing Itos. Jay Leno.
Well, there's the dancing Itos, and there was the dancing, what was her face? The
Marcia
Margaret. Gosh, Clark, that's what it was. Anyway, yeah, for those of you born in the 21st century, we're old. Okay, we have questions for our audience, so we will go ahead and roll into that. And our first question is going to come from Andre. Wants to know, are there any similarities between you and your character?
For me, I mean, yes, there are some similarities. Not what everybody goes through immediately, but the way Veronica is just there for her man, as she says, just making sure that she brings him lunch at work and all that kind of stuff. That's something that I would do, totally do. And sometimes I get a little too lost in the relationship, but learning. So that's the similarity that I have with Veronica.
Fair.
Well, anybody who knows me personally or follows on my social media knows that I've had struggles with alcoholism and drug addiction. That said, the one addiction I never had was cigarettes, because I genuinely loathed cigarette smoking, and I was pretty militant about it with my family, my mother. I really did hate cigarettes and cigarette smoking, but that's about the only similarity between myself and the Chewlies guy, because he's pretty dubious, and that's about it. But that is true. People ask me all the time, do you really dislike it? And I did. I always loathed cigarette smoking. It was nasty and destroyed my mother's health. So
for me, I think I've worked clerking jobs. I worked for a supermarket where I was a deli clerk, meat clerk, a seafood clerk. So the clerk part of it, I got immediately. I understood dealing with the public on that type of grocery level things. I don't know. I'm a bit of a people pleaser, where I don't want to cause conflict, but if you do wrong me, just step back, because it ain't going to be fun. Otherwise, I'm not like a 2-timing, double playing, wishy-washy, whiny little bitch. I'm not, that's for sure. But I do play it really well.
Acting. Andre, thank you. That was a good one to start us off with. And from Brian, what's the funniest moment you recall from the set?
Marilyn?
It's got to be the drunk that comes to get the cigarettes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
When we were on set, yeah. And
we had a guy nightly who would come in. We would shoot. Some people might not realize, we shot the film mostly in overnights, from like 10:30 at night till 5, 6 in the morning, depending on how long we went. That's why the shutters are closed in the movie, so that we didn't have to light the outside as if it was daylight. But there was the guy.
The origin of this.
Yeah, exactly. There was the guy who had come in almost on the regular, who had, probably a 6-pack and a half, maybe more in him, who would always knock on the door to get a pack of cigarettes. And there would always be the question, "Hey, what are you doing? Shooting a music video?" Which grated on Kevin's nerve if you said you're shooting a video. Video? And so we would just literally just sell him. And at points like, are you coming tomorrow? Do you want to buy 2 packs or 4 or whatever it is? We don't have to keep knocking on the door. But we used to get that was kind of fun.
Yeah. And for me also, getting up on that refrigerator, or the freezer, I should say. And although I didn't get to fire it, it's still holding it and just that pose. It's like, it was a nice, strong, badass pose, you know?
Very empowering moment with a fire extinguisher.
Mm-hmm.
You're better than any Smokey the Bear poster I see.
Yeah, I would say for me too that the people that would come to the door and like genuinely be like not understand that it was closed, and for us, you know, like they were, because they were pretty loopy, a lot of them that came to the door. They were either, you know, super stoned or drunk or something. But that's probably some of the funniest stuff that I remember as well.
Yeah, there was a few things like seeing the cat poop on cue was a weird kind of like, holy crap, this cat's doing it. Like he's the method actor if I've ever seen him. He's better than some of the people in the film. And so that was fun. Having the fight with Jeff Anderson, getting to kind of pseudo destroy the candy section was the only action sequence really in the whole film besides the hockey game on the roof, but then also coordinating the hockey game on the roof, which was such a tiny space, and Dave Klein, a master of getting the right camera angles to make it seem like we had an entire roof to play hockey on. So that was a fun time, you know. And then after the film was released, when we got to recreate that hockey scene for the Soul Asylum video for the music, Can't Even Tell, from the film. That was a lot of fun.
Right, you're talking about action scenes. What was it like in the excise scene, where the alternate ending where Brian gets killed?
Oh. Well, I hated it when I read it. When I first read the script and I went home and I read it, I was like, what? What is this about? That's bullshit. But I remember coming in to rehearse and saying to Kevin, like, do we really need to have this killing? And he goes, well, that's the whole serious irony about this whole thing. He wasn't even supposed to be here that day. And this is a real risk that we run in this job, people coming in. As much fun as the Apu character.
I can attest to that.
Lifting up a shirt to show all the bullet holes he's taken in the real world, especially today with COVID going on and people are just robbing stores left and right. It's a thing. So I was like, all right, I get it. It's a serious ending to it. So we shot it, and we used, since it was black and white film, we didn't have to worry about blood. So we used Hershey's syrup, the milk.
That's what they did in the old days. The shower scene in Psycho was chocolate syrup down the drain.
So it's just, as long as it's dark and viscous, that's the same viscosity of blood. That's all that mattered. So we did it. Kevin edited it the summer of '93. It screened its very first time in October at the New York Feature Film Market, a film festival that doesn't even exist anymore. Yeah, at the Angelica. And after that, and then once it got into John Pearson's hand, who was a producer's rep, who produced people, who repped people like Spike Lee and a few others, he said, we really should drop this ending. It's a comedy, it's a funny movie all the way to the end, and then you drop this bomb on the audience, you're just going to get the audience mad at you for killing off a beloved character. And I was like, oh, beloved. And so
he was right.
He was absolutely right. And from that day forth, it never screened again with that alternate ending.
Yeah, I didn't like that ending either. So I was happy that they did it. And had they not, there wouldn't have been a second.
Correct. Just think, no donkey show. Come on.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you for your question, Brian. That was a good one. What do we have next? From Sharon. What was everyone's favorite character quote?
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm thinking.
My favorite of yours, Marilyn, is "You told him."
Wait. Oh, God,
You know,
I'm trying to think of that.
after Randall makes the noise.
Oh, right.
37.
Okay, yes. Okay.
Look, it's obvious that mine is gonna be
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
so. Mine is
How did you do that?
a magic. I mean, there are people who are probably going to say this about Marilyn.
Hey, try not to suck any dick on the way through the parking lot.
So,
Back here.
so.
But
Although
I don't know.
I did love the fact that when I can use this all the time.
Fuck!
So that's always.
I mean, I don't know that there's a one favorite quote, because it's like I feel like Clerks is just filled with so many like good quotes
In a row?
So I mean, but I'd have to say like the fun one to have done was it's like something like 36. Oh, yeah, 37. So that was a fun one to do.
37. My girlfriend sucked 37 dicks. In a row?
Yeah, I don't know if they're asking about our character's favorite quote, not a favorite quote, I guess, right?
No, it could be everyone's favorite character quote. So you can be either something that you like saying, or maybe some other character that that resonates with you.
For me, it was
it's
Silent Bob actually spoke.
definitely in a row. That one was hard to beat. That was
In a row?
Yeah, that's laugh out loud funny.
For me, Skolnick.
Berserker.
Just not even. It's just like that. You like Skolnick? Yeah, I think for 8 years after I saw the movie, I saw something or said something like, Patty, what do you think? Skolnick.
But like Marilyn said, there's so many. That's the greatest thing about pretty much all of Kevin's films is his grasp of dialogue is so unique and so right on point and so on the money. I mean, you know, when you have the guy who's accusing,
Are you calling me a liar?
you know, who's accusing like, hey, you know, you're a liar and stuff like that. And he just writes such great things. And that's why every movie of his, even the ones that you may not like a Jersey Girl or Mallrats, whatever, you'll just still be able to harvest some really golden nuggets of dialogue from him.
Yeah, and like I was saying, it's like when Silent Bob finally says something, it's always so poignant. So it's like those are my favorite moments in many of the Kevin Smith films.
Who the fuck likes Clerks but doesn't like Mallrats? I'm sure they're out. I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure they're out there.
They're out there.
I'm sure that. I'm sure you guys have heard from them all. So, but Sharon, thank you very much. That was a great question for us. What do we have next? From Adrian, what was your first impression of the idea of doing a film in black and white?
I don't think there's anything that I even thought about, to be honest. It's I was just getting to do a film.
Yeah, for the most part, it was all of us doing our first filming of a film. And it just, to me, it was just a less amount of time needed to set lights, get your makeup right. Oh, there's a greenish hue coming off of here. It was just black and white. And if anything, my mom enjoys black and white movies. So I was like, well, at least there's that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, aesthetically, I had shot a few things. I was cast in a couple of things that never were finished before Clerks. It never saw the light of day. But to me, aesthetically, I just thought it was going to be, you know, add to a style. No budget is no budget. You know, no budget is no budget. So didn't think much about it other than it'll probably be cool.
I mean, it did affect when it went to Sundance and they were bringing Harvey Weinstein to see the very first screening of it. It was before we even went to Sundance. Someone brought it to the Miramax offices for him to screen it at his offices. And literally once they turned it on, the VHS copy of it, once they turned it on and he saw that it was black and white, he was like, black and white, I'm out of here. And he kind of left. And he was just like, we're not distributing a film that's black and white. So forget that. You know, and it's funny because years later, one of their films, The Artist, won an Oscar, and it was in black and white. So it was that type of film kind of turned it off. But a lot of people, when they first see it, they go, "Oh, it's black and white. Oh, I don't know." 5 minutes into the film, you just totally forget that there's any need for color to begin with. Some people thought it was an artistic choice, that it was, it's from the point of view of the security cameras kind of thing. And it wasn't. It was literally just a budgetary reason. Black and white film was cheaper. If you had color film, you would then have to get the proper tungsten lights and the gels and stuff and make sure the balance was everything right on the camera, and it would just cost too much. And so Kevin, Dave Klein advised Kevin, like, we could just shoot it in black and white and not have to worry about all that. And that was it. We were able to use fluorescent lighting in the store and everything else. And there we go, doing it on the cheap.
A good movie is a good movie, black and white or otherwise. And
it'll be funny, though, if the Turner networks ever colorized it. I know back in the early 90s, he was big into colorization of black and white films.
Yeah, and to be totally honest, I'm kind of surprised that some crazy fan or something hasn't, since that technology's at everybody's fingertip, has anybody done a fan colorized version?
No, they haven't done the actual film of it, but they've done stills colorized.
Right.
I've seen that, but I've never, because one time they sent it to me, I'm like, the actual overshirt was a olive green, not blue. Like, they don't know, so I have to give them notes. I'm like, this is what it really looked like.
That is true. During the colorization process that Turner was doing, and same thing with old comics too. So, Adrian, thank you. Good question. What do we have next from Andre? What first inspired you to be an actor?
Well, I had gone through a divorce. I was trying to find something, and I eventually just kind of found myself to acting classes, and this is making a long story short. But once I studied for a couple of years before I felt even comfortable to start auditioning. And funny enough, as in the process of getting to know the community theater circuit, I went to a play that Brian was in. He was playing Renfield in Dracula, and very impressed with him. And but eventually just started having them get to know me, so that then I started doing community theater. And the first time that I was on that stage, I was like, oh yeah, I'm hooked.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, music was my first love and passion, and I've been playing guitar and keyboard since I'm very young. But then in high school, I got the bug, and I can't recall what it was, the turning point for it. But I love film and always did love film. The medium, the power of the medium of film. And a lot of it was, what you call piss and vinegar. Because in the beginning, I didn't get a lot of, I actually had a high school drama coach tell me, well, maybe you should think about not doing this. And because I auditioned for the part of Renfield, and my best friend got the role. So I stage managed. But I wanted it so badly, I didn't care. And then about a year or two later, I was on a cable television. We had a sketch comedy group, and the person who produced that was telling me, you really should consider doing this seriously. So within a few years, I was told, but I just wanted it so badly. It didn't matter that if somebody told me no, I probably would have just went harder for it. That was the mentality at that age, though.
I find it curious that the stage production of Dracula and the character of Renfield is a common thread in this.
Right?
I think, personally, this is the first time I've heard that story from Scott.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest of three sons in an Irish Catholic family. My oldest brother is 9 years older. The other one is 6 years older. So I was the baby of the group, and I was always acting out. So I guess turning my acting out and trying to, grab attention, I started to just get into, elementary school plays and sketch shows and stuff like that. When I lived in my building in the Bronx, my window over, it was the first floor above the main entrance of the building. So literally I would do like puppet shows with my Ernie from Sesame Street, or I would play records and pseudo DJ out the window of my building.
Oh, wow.
Just to get some, creative release out of there. So when we moved to Jersey, Northern Jersey in '79, and we lived there for 4 years, I got into the choir then and into the stage plays, the elementary school stage plays. Then when my family moved to Central Jersey, it wasn't until, my senior year that I got into the high school plays. Because what I was doing is my outlet then was playing role-playing games like, D&D and DC Heroes and Aftermath and all these other role-playing games that I spent my years in another friend's basement in high school, where we would do, 72 hours of role-playing games and buying, fast food from all different restaurants and stuff like that. And then in high school, I went back out for high school plays. Then when I left high school, I went to community college, where I took all the theater classes, building sets and doing lighting and learning about costuming and design and stuff like that. And then I went into community theater right from there. And then I started doing community theater stuff. And one of the first shows I did in community theater was Dracula, where I played Renfield the Lunatic, and then went on to do many other shows from there. I got really great reviews from that. Went on to do Dracula in different forms. There's 2 different plays. There's Passion Dracula and Dracula, where I played Renfield in all 3 productions, but also went on to do plays like Wait Until Dark and The Dresser and Charlotte's Web, where I was Templeton the Rat, and it was from that the connection to the First Avenue Playhouse. Kevin lived at the town next door. This is the local community theater group, and what a better place to hold auditions and to find actors to audition for would be your local community theater. That's why I always tell people, support your local community theaters. They're a necessity as an outlet for artists to get their work out there.
Absolutely. Andre, thank you so much. That was a great question. And GalaxyCon viewers, this has been my time with the cast of Clerks, but it absolutely does not have to be yours. If you'd like to chat with our guests or purchase an autograph, please head over to GalaxyCon.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out our schedule of upcoming events like this one. Panelists, any final words for our audience before we go?
Just thank you. Yeah, vote. Oh, gosh, yes. But thank you for being here.
Stay safe and vote.
Yes, if you want to reach out, social media, those are my social media sites. If you want to catch my podcast Streamcast, these are those social media sites. I want to thank GalaxyCon for having us. It's been great as always. PD is always fun to chat with. It's always good seeing, even virtually, Marilyn Ghigliotti and Scott Schiaffo. And thank you guys out there for logging in and being a part of this 1 hour of a fantastic week and couple of weeks that GalaxyCon has been putting on shows. So I'm very grateful for you. Hope to see you on a one-on-one chat coming up.
Yeah, I'm very, very thankful to Mike for allowing me to, or having me be on this and stuff.
Mike, Sandy, the whole crew of GalaxyCon working very hard doing this stuff.
On behalf of myself and GalaxyCon, it has been my absolute pleasure to serve you all today. Once again, thank you for joining us here at the GalaxyCon virtual stage. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. And thank you for all your great questions. Bye-bye, everyone. Take care. And please keep washing those hands.